But with Christian McCaffrey's injury and the defense or the offensive run game like stagnation, do you think that they should be utilizing Jordan Mason more? Elijah Mitchell seems to be lacking the explosiveness that he used to bring. Originally, I was kind of thinking that if Elijah Mitchell got more carries, like maybe he needed to get into a flow, but we've seen him get way more game time over the last 2 games, and he's still definitely not as productive. Now, Christian McCaffrey is getting touchdowns, but when it comes to his yards per carry, he's definitely slowed down quite a bit. What do you think would be a solution to that? Or do you think it's mainly the offensive line? And if it's mainly the offensive line, do you have any comments for the recent news that Aaron Banks, also on that left side, just suffered a turf toe injury,
Turf
and
toe,
it's going to
yeah.
be out multiple weeks after the bye week. Now, hopefully Trent Williams comes back, so that kind of negates it because obviously he's way better. But just seems like a little bit of a rolling downhill for the 49ers, one thing causing another.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a reason as to why Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason aren't playing, I think the reason is just because they don't provide what Christian McCaffrey does as an overall unit. I mean, the 49ers, what they want to do offensively is have the entirety of their playbook open at all costs, and Christian McCaffrey provides that because he is such a lethal threat in both that facets of the field. So the 49ers, they're trying to figure out the balance of utilizing McCaffrey in that way, but also, keeping him on the sidelines to preserve his health at the expense of losing that entire playbook. And there's certain times where you just want to run the football. And the 49ers need to do a better job of that. Kyle Shanahan needs to find a way to balance his running back rotation a little more, to get Christian McCaffrey more breathing room, but also to make him more efficient and more, effective on the plays that he is on the field, like those passing plays where he is used as decoy or where he's, commanding attention or whatever it may be. So I do think that there should be more utilization. I can understand why you might be more hesitant to do so, just because of what Christian McCaffrey brings to you as a team, with your team. But he's already gotten a major injury thus far. It hasn't costed him many weeks, but that's one that you gotta watch for. And I think that that's important. As for the offensive line, Aaron Banks' injury is big because that was one of the other spots where you saw some consistency offensively. I think Banks has been all right this year. I don't think he's necessarily been elite, but I think he's been all right this year. However, I do think that right side of the offensive line is pretty struggled. It struggled. You talk about McKevitz, you talk about Burford. I think those guys have struggled. And now, you could have an argument where John Feliciano might sub in not only for he could have subbed in for Burford or Brendel, because Brendel also hasn't looked that great. Now you're going to have to start him at left guard. And so I think when you talk about it, that interior offensive line is getting worse. And that's an issue because the 49ers, even if they get Trent Williams back, you do want to see that offensive line shored up. And so right now, you might miss Aaron Banks for a week or two, and that might put you again in the loss column if you're facing against, a tougher defense, depending on how long he ends up being out. Because the issue is the 49ers, not only this year, but in years past, they've struggled with the interior defensive linemen that are really good. You talk about last year, week 6 against the Atlanta Falcons, they struggled against Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett changed the direction of the game. And if you talk about a couple of the games this year, you talk about Cleveland, they struggled against Dalvin Tomlinson, Jordan Elliott. They struggled, against a couple of these matchups in the last few weeks, and I think that that's pretty noteworthy this week as well. You talk about the defensive line. I thought Cincinnati got better of them with their defensive line versus our offensive line.
Completely agree, which it's just a little bit disappointing that because I had heard a lot of that too with the having Feliciano maybe sub in for Burford, and now him needing to take over for Banks is a shame. Banks definitely isn't a world beater, but I feel like when you don't hear a guy's name, that usually means he's doing pretty good. And I feel like over this last year, he's been called more. Really quick before moving to our next topic, I thought this one was funny. He says, no identity crisis. We are a McFlurry machine at McDonald's, vanilla play calling, and always broken. And I just wanted to laugh with you. If
Yeah.
I used to love McFlurries like after on Fridays, like I did cheer, so we would have practice, and then my dad would take me and my friends to
And then it would go
McDonald's.
right after. Yeah.
Yes, and I would always get the Butterfinger one, but I like to like eat the chocolate off the Butterfinger first, and then I would make my dad get the M&M one, and I would try to steal his too. So I like secretly got two different flavors. So, have you ever had a McFlurry? And
Yeah. I've had them at some pretty interesting times, I'll say that, in the night. And so
yeah.
sometimes, you'll just chill. You'll go to McDonald's at the end of the night or something. You'll order a McFlurry, and hopefully they still got them. So, but yeah, definitely some nice memories with them.
And then speaking of my dad really quick, he said the O-line isn't doing their job, period. Super bold. So, he means business. I agree, and it unfortunately doesn't seem. I mean, it will get better with Trent Williams returning from injury, hopefully at the end of this bye week. But yeah, it's a shame that Aaron Banks is suffering from turf toe, especially because didn't and maybe it's different quarterback versus offensive line, but you wouldn't think so because offensive linemen have to dig their feet in. But I remember, wasn't it Aaron Rodgers who got that, and he wasn't able to play for almost half the season or something? Am I completely missing
turf toe.
that?
Turf toe is
It's actually a
not
really
great.
big deal, even though it sounds like, oh,
Yeah.
it's your toe. I broke my toe, so I feel like I have a ton of empathy. Not now, it's better.
Okay.
But when you think of a broken toe, you're like, oh, okay, you have I was gonna say 10 other toes, and I was like, that's not how you do math. You have 9 other ones. So, but your toes, they hurt. If you can't, I couldn't walk. I was like, you have to lift your toe up. I have no idea how people would play a sport with a toe injury.
Mhm.
So not ideal for that.